We are honored and grateful to receive this award, and we thank the Florida Bar for considering us. We're indebted to many people, foremost the families who shared stories of how overuse of the Baker Act in Florida's public schools upended their lives. They were beyond generous with their time, even as we delved into the details of their horrifying experiences and the enduring pain those caused. We want to thank all the editors, writers, photographers, designers, and other journalists in our newsroom who helped shape this story and who crafted other pieces of the larger project it was part of. In particular, we're grateful to our editors Tom Tobin, Karen Peterson, and Maria Carrillo, who believed in this story from the start and shepherded it through 11 months of reporting.
Both of us were local education reporters when we began pursuing this story. It would have never been on our radar if not for our deep knowledge of the communities, school districts, and law enforcement agencies we covered. We continued doing that beat work while also carrying out painstaking data entry and shoe leather reporting that underpin the story. The past decade has forced significant financial belt tightening at local and regional newspapers, and beat reporting and community news have been among the greatest casualties. We hope people see that our story is just one example of what truly local news can look like when given the support it deserves. Thank you.
Hello, I am Dan Sullivan with the Tampa Bay Times, and I'm here to accept the second prize in the Florida Bar's Parker Thomson Awards for Outstanding Legal Journalism in Florida. It's the second time I've won second place, so I guess it kind of feels like first place. But seriously, I'm honored to receive this award and grateful that it's for this story in particular. This was a challenging story to do. It centered on a terrible crime and the efforts of the man responsible, who was a juvenile at the time, to demonstrate remorse and achieve redemption. And it's not an easy thing to tell a story and strike a balance between those two things. And there were some people who actually discouraged me from pursuing this story because of that, but I'm glad that I was able to tell it. The issue of juvenile resentencings, which are commonly referred to as Graham and Miller cases, is a subject I find endlessly interesting. There were so many stories in the last few years of people who committed serious crimes as juveniles and have served many years in prison, who are now seeking a second chance. And I think these stories are most worthy of being told, and I'm honored and grateful that the Tampa Bay Times allowed me to tell this one. I'd like to thank Maria Carrillo, who was my editor on this story, for encouraging me and guiding me through the reporting and writing. I'd also like to thank Octavio Jones, the photographer who traveled with me very long distances to make the images for this story. And perhaps most of all, I'd like to thank David Welch for trusting me to tell his story. Congratulations to my colleagues on their win, and thank you also to the Florida Bar, and thank you very much.
I remember the night that Amendment 4 passed. I was scrolling through my timeline on Twitter and saw all sorts of people celebrating. And me, ever the cynic, I responded that if we take recent history of how the legislature implements ballot initiatives that it disagrees with as an indication, the story was only getting started. And as we've seen since then, that's exactly what happened. I'm honored to have been able to tell important parts of this story and to be able to shed light on some of the history behind how we find ourselves in the situation where money and wealth is so intertwined with the criminal justice system to the point where it's impossible to disentangle it from the fundamental right to cast a vote. I'd like to thank the Florida Bar for this incredible honor. And I'd also like to thank my whole team at WLRN for allowing me to tell these stories, especially Alicia Zuckerman, Terrence Shepard, and Tom Hudson. To my friends who've listened to me spin my wheels about this thing over the last year and a half, thank you. To my beautiful wife, Lou Jane, for letting me keep the light on at night when I wrote several of these stories. And last of all, I want to thank my parents and grandparents who years ago came to this country with hopes and dreams that their children would be able to publicly question the government without fear of persecution or harassment. I thank them for all their sacrifices and hope that I'm making them proud.
Hello. I'd first like to say thank you to the Florida Bar for honoring myself and WESH TV and our staff and management here with the Parker Thomson Award for Outstanding Legal Journalism in the Division of Television Broadcast. This award is very meaningful to me personally because in this particular entry that's being recognized and honored, I spent most of my time last year and conducted most of my reporting on this particular topic, the Guardian program in Florida. The first of our reports focused on a particular guardian who was entrusted with the care of hundreds of incapacitated, mostly elderly people, and she was responsible for their finances and medical affairs. And she neglected and abused them, as evidenced by the charges against her now, with 2 felonies for neglect and abuse, and leading to the death of one man in Florida. That trial has yet to come. After that, we focused on the Guardian program itself, looking at the program that oversees people who are entrusted with thousands in Florida. And changes are being made there too. As a result of our reporting and the reporting of other news organizations in Florida, Senate Bill 994 was passed and signed into law by Governor Ron DeSantis. It takes effect this month, and it provides new tools, new oversights for the program to investigate complaints against professional guardians. We're going to continue to do reports like this, specifically focusing on the court system to try and make it better for all of us.